Hello everyone, welcome back to Crime of Villa. I'm Steven. Before we go further, let's watch this video together.
I am Mrs. Alamu, FR. I am the principal of Community High School, Esiele, in Oriire local government of Oyo State. On Friday, around 9:30, we were attacked by a certain group of people, and a good number of us were abducted, the staff and the students as well. And we have been here since Friday. I am making this video to ask for help from everyone, starting from the federal government of Nigeria and the Oyo State government, Engineer Seyi Makinde, the Christian Association of Nigeria, and all well-meaning Nigerians, that they should come to our help and settle this thing peacefully so that our lives will not be lost. Thank you very much.
On the morning of May 10, 2026, panic swept through the quiet communities of Oyo State, Nigeria, when news emerged that 39 pupils alongside 7 teachers, including a school principal, were adopted from 2 schools in the southern parts of the state. It was a regular school day until armed men stormed the classrooms, forcing students and teachers into vehicles and disappearing into the forest. The shock was immediate and profound. Parents rushed to the school, some collapsed in grief, others demanding answers. The entire nation watched as the story dominated airlines and social medias, igniting fears about security in Nigerian schools. For weeks, the family of the captives held prayer vigils while communities organized marches and called on the government to act swiftly.
Good morning. Today is the 27th of May, 2026. About 30 days ago, we have been picked from the strong war. And still now, we are still in the bush. And we are begging you, President Tinubu, Governor Seyi, and every other woman in Nigeria to please help us. I'm calling on NUT and COPS to help us, to talk to them. We don't need force. All they have to do is to negotiate with them and release us. We are in the cold. We are under the sun. We are under the rain. The children and the adults as well. Please, we are begging you. We are begging you. Don't let them waste our lives. They are getting impatient and frustrated. Please help us. We are begging you in the name of God. Please help us. Please help us. Please help us. Don't just leave us here. Don't forget us in the bush. Please answer them on time. Please. This does not call for force at all. Please just negotiate with them and dialogue with them.
Please help us save our lives. Please, we are all here, all we the teachers and the children. Please, we need your help.
As days turned into weeks, skepticism grew across Nigeria. Many doubted the ability of the nation's security service to rescue the children, given a history of stalled or unsuccessful rescue missions in similar cases. Rumors spread and some claimed negotiations with the kidnappers were ongoing. Others feared the worst, and the government and the military remained largely silent about their plans, fueling even more anxiety and suspicions. But behind the scene, however, the Nigerian security forces were not idle. The military, acting in coordination with the Department of State Service and local vigilante groups, launched an intensive intelligence-led operation. According to later reports, they used the combinations of drone surveillance. Also, they intercepted communications between the kidnappers and communications from local informants to track the gang's movement. The kidnappers had moved the hostages frequently, making it difficult to pinpoint their exact location. By early July, actionable intelligence finally pointed to the remote camp where the hostages were being held. On July 11, 2026, the military launched a pre-dawn raid. Special forces supported by local hunters who knew the forest terrain quietly surrounded the camp. And in a swift and coordinated strike, they overwhelmed the kidnappers, rescued only 44 hostages, and arrested several of the abductors. Unfortunately, one of the teachers was killed during the initial raid, and another was killed during their time in captivity. A few of the abductors managed to escape, but the operation was considered a major success. When the news broke later that day, there was a mix of disbelief and relief. Some Nigerians questioned if the operations had really gone as described, or if a ransom had been paid behind closed doors. The authorities insisted the rescue was purely the result of security operations, releasing photos and videos of the freed children and teachers to reassure the public. Families gathered at local hospitals to welcome their loved ones, and many of them were in tears. The children were visibly shaken and malnourished, but relieved to be safe. The teachers too were hailed for their bravery in protecting the students during captivity. Medical teams and counselors were brought in to help them recover from the trauma. Also, officials used the rescue to renew their vows about making schools safer, but Nigerians remain wary. There are calls for governments to invest more in intelligence, community policing, and rural security infrastructure so that schools never have to go through such an ordeal again. In the end, the story of the Oyo abduction is a testament to the resilience of family and communities, also the complexity of Nigerian security challenges, and the ongoing debate about how best to protect our nation's most valuable citizens. Even after the military announced the successful rescue of the 44 pupils and teacher, many Nigerians remain doubtful and skeptical about the official account. This skepticism isn't new. It's rooted in past experience where details about kidnapping and rescues have been murky, with conflicting reports and lack of transparency from the authorities. For instance, some people questioned how the military was able to locate and free all the hostages after such a long period, especially when earlier rescue missions in Nigeria have sometimes failed or ended in partial success. There were rumors that ransoms might have been paid behind closed doors, despite officials' denial. Others speculated that the timing and publicity of the rescue might have been influenced by political motives, especially with the release being so widely covered in the media. On social media, hashtags like "Bring Back Our Children" and "Oyo Rescue" trended alongside debates about the credibility of the government's narrative. Some families and activists demanded more evidence and independent investigation, asking for clearer details about how the rescue happened and what measure would be taken to prevent future kidnappings. In community discussion and in the press, people expressed relief that the children were home, but also voiced frustration that such abduction continued to happen. Many called on the government to go beyond rescue operations and address the root cause, like poverty, insecurity, and lack of investment in rural safety that makes schools vulnerable in the first place. Now let's talk about the impact of being kidnapped, which can have lasting and profound effects on children, even after they are rescued and reunited with their families. The first one is the psychological scar. First, the mind takes a massive hit. Many children suffer from PTSD, experiencing vivid nightmares, flashbacks, and sudden panic attacks at any reminder of the raid. Also, deep depressions often set in, causing them to lose trust and completely pull away from friends and family. And worst of all, a crippling fear of separation takes over, making them intensely clingy and terrified to leave their parents' side. Another one is behavioral and physical damage. The physical and mental toll of those weeks in the forest is brutal. Captivity leaves the children battling severe malnutrition, dehydration, and physical illness, while chronic insomnia blocks their recovery. Also, emotional overload leads to aggressive outbursts or behavioral regression, like bedwetting and fear of the dark. Ultimately, fractured memory and intense school avoidance, fueled by the literal terror of returning to the classroom where they were captured, caused them to fall severely behind. Finally, the trauma radiates outward to fracture the entire household. Parents and siblings develop severe secondary anxiety and crippling overprotectiveness after leaving through weeks of agonizing uncertainty. This phase breaks down normal family dynamics, forcing restricted freedoms, upended daily routines, or even sudden relocation out of the area just to feel safe again. From the Oyo School abduction and rescue case, several important lessons emerge for families, communities, authorities, and the nation as a whole. Firstly, schools are soft targets. The Oriire raid proves that security threats are expanding into previously peaceful southwest zones. Rural areas remain highly vulnerable and urgently needs ardent security infrastructure and local vigilance. Another one is that a physical rescue is just the beginning of much longer battle. Hospitals discharge and freedom means very little without immediate long-term psychosocial support and rehabilitation to heal the minds of the survivor. Also, we need to fix the foundation. Sophisticated criminal networks thrive by hiding in vast, unpoliced forest reserves. True long-term safety requires permanent forest governance, better intelligence, and proactive policing rather than just waiting to react. The finish line isn't the rescue, it's the long road to recovery. Physical freedom is one, but the true peace of mind must still be built. Moving forward, we must build a fortress of safety around our children, our schools. Stay alert, stay safe, and let's protect our community together. See you in the next one. And do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notification. Bye.